What's up everyone, welcome to another video, and in this video I'm going to show you how to create an Afrobeat which is inspired by Rema. So this beat is definitely inspired by the new track Troublemaker, and I was just thinking about creating something similar and showing it to you guys. So let's get started. So for this beat, first I'm starting off with a shaker loop. So I'm using shaker loop 5 from the African Producer bundle, and I'm adjusting the project BPM to 101 BPM. So the next step when it comes to creating this beat is the drums. So first I'm starting off with a simple snare pattern which is very similar to the snare pattern which is used in Troublemaker. So I'm starting off with snare 27 from the Afrobeats Infinity drum kit, layering it with the shaker. So a very simple layer which is often applied when it comes to making Afrobeats. So then we're adding the kick and we're keeping it simple by just adding it at the first step. And then we're adjusting the velocity. So this one is just a little bit softer. And by doing this, we're adding a lot of groove and bounce to the drum loop. So let's have a listen. Very simple track. So then we've built the main rhythm for a beat. So right now, let's add some more percussions. So then I've used this head, which sounds very unique. And then we're simply layering the snare rhythm with the head. So let's have a listen. Just a small detail, but we're adding some more low frequencies to make sure the snare and the head are the main rhythm. So now the next step is to add some percussion. So this way we're making it more interesting. We're adding some more groove to the drum loop. So let's get started. So I've added percussion 19. So this one contains some more low frequencies, and we're layering it with the doubled kick right here. Just to make it a little bit more interesting. And make sure when you add those two elements, because they contain a lot of low frequencies, they're playing in the same key. So otherwise it would sound very messy and not that good. So something to keep in mind. Then we're adding some more percussions. And to this percussion I've added some more ambience by using the Violin vintage verb. Just adding a little bit of mix. And I'm making sure I'm removing the low frequencies from the sound to make sure my drum loop doesn't get messy. Instantly makes the drum loop more interesting. And next up, I've added this percussion which contains some more high frequencies. So I think this percussion contains a metal element and a tom, so this one. And I've also added some reverb. Just add some more room to the drum loop. So when listening to the track from Rema Troublemaker, when you listen to the beat very closely, it sounds very empty. So there aren't a lot of elements used when it comes to creating a drum loop. So for this beat, I also want to keep it as simple as possible. So this is the final element, which is a metal sound, and it just spices up the drum loop a little bit. Very tiny detail. And then last but not least, we're adding a second shaker loop just to add some more high frequencies to the background, and this is shaker 53. So the shaker only contains some high frequencies, and I think this is a perfect fit to make sure your drums blend very well together. Link them all to the mixer, so I've linked them to perks, and then you just pan some elements to the left and to the right to create some stereo separation. And then at first, just remove the low frequencies up to 50 Hz because you definitely don't need them. Then just use a compressor you like. So in this case, I've used the Tube Staff from Arturia, using Parallel 2 preset, just to glue all the elements together. And then the magic trick when it comes to mixing is adding some subtle saturation to again glue it together. So this creates a lot of headroom and in the end maximizing the volume. Then I'm using Golfos to balance the signal, and this is something which I'm applying lately, but it's an amazing trick and it makes a huge difference. And then I'm again expanding the signal, so I'm basically widening it up. So I'm doing this by first panning a signal to the left and to the right, and then I'm applying the exact opposite when using another Pro Q3. So without all the effects, it sounds like this. And then when applying all the effects, So as you can see, we've compressed the synths and we've created some more headroom. So this is exactly what I'm looking for. So next up, we're going to add the melodies and we're going to create something which is very similar to Troublemaker. So in Troublemaker, a lot of organic elements are used. We're going to use a piano, we're going to use a guitar, and we're also going to apply a unique rhythm when it comes to the log drum. So I'm using the piano V from Arturia, the American Home Clean. I'm going to create this beat in F sharp minor. So I'm selecting View, Scale Highlighting, and then I'm selecting F sharp minor. So let's start off by drawing in a chord progression. So we're going to create a simple chord progression. And I was simply counting the notes. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to add a 4th and 5th note. Then we're adding one note, 1 octave down right here. Then just copy the whole chord progression, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. And the next note which we're going to use is E. So we're now just make sure the chord progression fits the scale. So I'm just saying this one, this one. And then we're adding the final note, so this one. So the next note available within the scale. Then we're adding D, F, and let's just remove this G. And then extend this chord progression. So this one will be 2 bars. And in this case, I want to create an 8-bar chord progression. So I'm selecting Ctrl V, Ctrl B to duplicate this chord progression. And let's make an adjustment right here. So I just want to reuse the first chord. And then I want to pick a note upwards. So just let's select the whole chord progression and let's select the first note available within the scale. So let's say A in this case. So let's see if this chord sounds fine. That sounds great, but I think I want to adjust this E. So right now this piano melody sounds way too quantized, way too flat. So there are not a lot of dynamics added to this chord progression because when you play a piano in real life, I mean, you don't hit the keys at the same force. So we basically want to simulate this. So the first step is to strumize this melody. So just make sure we aren't hitting all the keys at the same time. So let's just strum it a little bit and then play around with the velocity. Something like this. And then of course you can randomize the keys again to make them a little bit softer, for example. That's it. So I think this chord progression goes very well together with the drums. So right now I think it's time to add the next element. So the next element which I've added is a guitar. So I'm using Contact 7 and I'm using the Electric Vintage. I'm using a custom preset. So I've made some tweaks to the amps and the effects. I'm using the fret position open. So it sounds like this when I play in a C. Sounds really, really cool. And on the guitar, I've also added some effects. So first I'm removing the low frequencies. Then I'm adding a chorus to soften up the sound. Then I'm adding this phaser Bytron. And it adds a really cool effect to the guitar. And then I'm adding a vintage reverb just to add some more color to the guitar. And then I'm just starting off at the root note right here. So I'm basically following the chord progression. Something like this. And then let's duplicate this chord progression. And then I'm picking a note which again fits the chord progression. So we don't have to adjust anything. And now we're playing around with the position. That sounds really cool. So right now, just let's copy this one over right here. And then we want to make sure we fit our chord progression. So if we're going from E to A right here, then we want to play around with the length of the notes. And you could simply do this by zooming in all the way until you think it sounds good, something like this. And then we want to again humanize this guitar melody. So we're pressing randomize. you can see, this one is way too loud, so we can simply adjust it by pressing Option, scroll down, like this. But I think this element sounds very, very good. So now let's move on to the next element. So the final element which I've added to this beat are some violins. So I'm using the strings ensemble from Contact 7, made some tweaks to this preset, so this one sounds like this. So it's really cool, very vintage. So now it's time to create something which goes very well together with the piano. Don't make it too messy, but we're going to add some simple variations. So again, we're going to draw this one in from scratch. We're basically following this one. That's it. So simple melody which goes together with the chord progression. So we're gonna add some slight variations, for example. So for example, we're gonna pick one note up from F sharp. So, or F, this one. And let's say G. Very simple. And then we could create something again, which is very, very easy. So like this, within the scale. Then we copy over this one again. And then we're going to make the melody, and in the second part, this chord progression, just a little bit more interesting. So we're creating kind of a transition to the next 8 bars. And then, of course, again, you want to randomize this one, maybe strum it, maybe tweak the strings so they sound more organic and more dynamic, but still keep it very straightforward because this isn't a main element. This is an element which you could easily use to create the transitions within the beat. So the next element which we're going to add is the log drum. And for this beat, I want to keep the log drum very low key and simple, so let's get started. So for the log drum, I've used log drum 9 from the African Producer Bundle, which is this preset. And again, we're starting off right here at F, turning up the volume all the way. So then we're going to create some small transitions in between, like this. Then we copy over this one and then just make it more interesting when it comes to the 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th step right here. So let's just adjust this one and we double this up right here. Then we're adjusting this one again from E to A. Let's add something like this right here. Then we're creating something very similar to this one and then just adjust this one. So let's have a listen to the second section of the log drum. So right now the next step is to add more power and low frequency to the log drum is by adding a simple sine wave or saw bass. And an element which you can easily apply is the E flute from the Fruity DX10, which is this simple preset, which contains a lot of power and low frequencies, a very easy element to apply. And then we simply just copy this one, paste it right here, and then we extend some of the notes, and right now it sounds like this. Extended this one. Then I've added a second log drum pattern. Switching it up, switching up the vibe. And by simply applying this one, so from going from D3 to D4, is something we just often use in those beats. A very easy trick, you don't have to mess around until it sounds good. Using the log drum at octave 3 and then at 4 is very easy. Then I've used some unique effects, so for example the up and down lifters, which I've added to the African Producer Bundle. So in this case we're using up and down lifter 7, and we're using an impact also from the African Drum Kit. And those elements are very easy to apply. They are pre-mixed, just drag them in and that's it. And on the elements, I've applied the same technique as I've applied to the drums. So I've linked them to one mixer bus right here. Make sure the melody sound right, bend the strings to the right, guitar to the right, and the piano to the left. So make sure when you're using headphones, you give an element an individual space within the mix, very easy, by just panning the elements. So I'm removing the low frequencies up to 125 Hertz. Then I'm adding some more saturation to make sure I'm gluing everything together. Then I'm widening up the signal again, applying the same trick by plus 3 dB. And then I'm using another parallel compression preset just to again make sure everything glues together. And then I'm using Fuzz to create a balanced signal, very easy. So that's it when it comes to adding all the elements. So right now, let me show you the arrangement. So this is a final arrangement, and the first things which I've added are some automation clips. So I've added 3 automations on the guitar. So I've added some kickstarts, so some side chaining. So I'm removing some of the high frequencies. So I've added a simple guitar melody. So this one. So I'm doing this to reuse some elements which I've already added and add some more uniqueness to the beat. And I think that's it, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you like the sounds which I've used in this beat, make sure to check out the African Producer Bundle. There is also a free preview which is called the African Sound Selection, which you can download for free on my website, so make sure to check it out. The links are in the description. So if you like this video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I will be posting beats and tutorials on my channel. So now let's listen to the final result, and I hope you have a great day and create some awesome music. See you in the next one.